Alone came I into the world, alone I shall go from it. So ends the poem, that ends the song, that ends the music, that ends this observance of Good Friday, this April 10th, in the year of our Lord 2020. Why would I, of all people, call this the year of our Lord? Because it reminds you and me of the man whose life ended cruelly on a spring Friday in Roman Judea over 2,000 years ago, a time even more turbulent and dangerous than our own. It reminds us that suffering is as much a measure of life as success. If, as the saying goes, we are not judged by our medals, but our scars, then Good Friday is when we pause to acknowledge the communion of suffering. Because of the disease COVID-19, we cannot call this a true worship service, though, for worship is what a community does. Though it be few, it cannot be just one. Therefore, this is an observance, a time set apart to observe the occasion and its enduring mysteries. I am Fred Wooden, the senior minister at Fountain Street Church, and of all the honors that come to the person who has this task, this one is the most solemn and the most potent. Alone came I into the world, alone I shall go from it, is the last phrase of a 9th century Irish poem, one of 10 that Samuel Barber set as a collection called the Hermit Songs, 10 short poems by anonymous medieval monastics. Luck, fortune, grace put these songs in my mind as I pondered this observance, and when I found the Hermit Songs Project, a collaboration of musicians and filmmakers from Canada, well, it felt like a sign. Between each song, I shall offer some words suited to the occasion, with the hope that this will help you mark this day in this particular year and do it well. I thank you for watching.
Pity me on my pilgrimage to Loch O King of the churches and the bells, bewailing your sores and your wounds, but not a tear can I squeeze from my eyes. Not my sin and I, after so much sin, pity me, O King. What shall I do with a heart that seeks only its own ease? Oh, only begotten Son, my home, my maid were made. Oh, shun not the death by 3 wounds. Pity me on my pilgrimage to Loch And I with a heart not softer than a stone.
Pity me on my pilgrimage to Loch Derg. That first line struck me. I am a pilgrim myself, for whom long journeys afoot are part of my spiritual life. Christian pilgrims, and there are pilgrims in all the world religions, do this to imitate the life of Jesus. His life was a long walk, after all, and his last day was no different. The story says that the soldiers led Jesus away into the palace and called together the whole company of soldiers. They put a purple robe on him, then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on him. And they began to call out to him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And when they had mocked him, they took off the purple robe and put his clothes back on him. Then they led him out to crucify him. Modern pilgrims go to the spot they believe to be where the prison was and walk to Calvary, now part of a church. They drag a cross and pray and sing songs. No Walt Whitmans these, afoot and light-hearted on the open road. They drag that cross or carry it upright. It is a labor, not a joy. Indeed, we should pity those who go on true pilgrimages, because it is a labor, not joy.
Sweet little bell, struck on a windy night, I would liefer keep tryst with thee than be with thy light and foolish woman.
Is there a sound more solitary than a single church bell? Hollow, deep, as much vibration as sound. It is what the soul sounds like to itself. In the Passion account, as Mark records it, they say a certain man from Cyrene, Simon, the father of Alexander and Rufus, was passing on his way in from the country, and they forced him to carry the cross. We know nothing more. He is a single note, like a church bell, in the sad peal of this story. Was I 14 or 15, perhaps, the year I joined the annual Easter pageant in Baltimore? Because I was tall and stocky, I got to be Simon the Cyrenian. Like the unnamed woman who anointed Jesus' feet, he was a walk-on in the greatest story ever told. I played my part to the hilt, dragging a cross made of 8x2 planks nailed into a hollow box and painted white. I dragged it across the outfield of Memorial Stadium, where in a day or so Brooks Robinson and Frank Robinson would take the field. The Via Dolorosa really was my first pilgrimage, it seems, but in a baseball stadium, not Jerusalem. Christians have always made their own Via Dolorosas, Rome notably, but all around the world. So why not a baseball stadium? And that would make Simon a pinch hitter. Is that a blasphemous thought?
I will take nothing from my Lord, said she, unless he gives me his son from heaven in the form of a baby, that I may nurse him. So that Christ came down to her in the form of a baby, and then she said, Infant Jesus, at my tiny nursling you, infant Jesus at my breast, by my heart every night. You in the Son not a child, but were begot on Mary the Jewess, my heaven's light. Infant Jesus at my breast, what king is there but you, who could give everlasting good? Wherefore I give my food. Sing to him, maidens, sing your best. There is none that has such right to your song as heaven's King. Every night is infant Jesus at my breast, at my
Nothing in this world is true, save, oh, tiny nursling you. Ita was an Irish woman who took the veil, as they used to say, and she dreamt of nursing baby Jesus and wrote the poem you heard. That made me think of Edna St. Vincent Millay, who answered that poem generations later with another, more suited to Good Friday than the title suggests. It's called To Jesus on His Birthday. For this your mother sweated in the cold, for this you bled upon the bitter tree, a yard of tinsel ribbon bought and sold, a paper wreath, a day at home for me. The merry bells ring out, the people kneel, up goes the man of God before the crowd, with voice of honey and with eyes of steel, he drones your humble gospel to the proud. Nobody listens. Less than the wind that blows are all your words to us. You died to save. O Prince of Peace, O Sharon's dewy rose, how mute you lie within your vaulted grave. The stone the angel rolled away with tears is back upon your mouth these 1,000 years.
I would like to have a bed of heaven in my own house, with lots of good cheer made of lamb. I would like to have the 3D mirrors that made us so great. I would like people from every corner of heaven. I would like them to be cheerful and not drinking. I would like to have Jesus sitting here among them. I would like a great drink of beer for the King of Kings. I would like to be watching heaven's family, drinking it through all eternity. I
On Patrick's wall was a poster. I think it was Patrick, but if not, it was someone in college with me. It was a drawing of Jesus laughing. He looked good, too, the sort of fellow you would drink a beer with. I would like a great lake of beer for the King of Kings, said the song. Of course, he could knock back a few. He had carpenter's hands, rough and strong. He had good legs from carrying lumber and walking everywhere. The land was dusty, and even he got thirsty. Didn't he say, celebrate while the bride and bridegroom are here? Jesus knew how to live, and that meant appreciating the gifts of life. Take no thought for the morrow, didn't he say? Can one by worrying add a moment to life, didn't he say? If he knew what was coming, and most think he did, every meal was a last meal, every drink was a last call, every day was a heavenly banquet, wasn't it? Isn't it? It is somehow fitting that the most pertinent poem for today lies at the halfway point. At the cry of the first bird, the poet writes, they began to crucify thee, O swan. Let us pause in silence for a moment. Is it about the sea, really? The Passion story says the sky went black, the earth shook, even the Roman guard was shaken. That sounds like what the poem says, but the title says it is about the sea. Well, no one knows who wrote it or why. But something horrid pushed that quill across some parchment that day centuries ago. It has broken us. It has crushed us. It has drowned us. The wind has consumed us, swallowed us. I wonder, will something like that, scrawled on a surgical mask or gown, be found someday among the flotsam of this plague?
I do not know if your maiden will sleep, but I do know that fair maiden will not sleep alone.
Imagine a monastery, for this is where it was written, a place devoted to study in solitude and chastity. It was there that someone wrote slyly, I do know that fair Aidan will not sleep alone. Bodies will be bodies, apparently, even in the midst of holy mystery. While he hung upon the cross, something so common then that it was not even news. Other bodies were being bodies elsewhere in the city, eating, drinking, talking, laughing, and yes, making love. Right then, when the story says God changed everything, Aidan was entangled in someone's arms. And that, too, is part of the story.
Panga, white Panga, how happy we are, alone together, scholar and cat. Each has his own work to do daily. For you it is hunting, for me study. Your shining eye watches the wall. My feeble eye is fixed on a book. You rejoice when your claws entrap a mouse. I rejoice when my mind fathoms a problem. Pleased with his own art, neither hinders the other. Thus we live ever, without tedium and envy.
I have heard someone say that in this pandemic, our dogs have never been happier and our cats never more miserable. On our walks each day, we see dogs on leashes, straining to sniff and see, and cats in windows, keeping a solemn eye out and betraying nothing. The poem is so sweet, appreciating the friendship between a monk and his cat, but did you hear the words, alone together? Solitude is part of their togetherness, something Rainer Maria Rilke understood when he described love as two solitudes that protect and border and greet one another. In the Passion story, everyone is alone. Jesus, Simon, the soldiers, the onlookers, the criminals on their crosses. They are together but utterly alone. But they are not alone together. Together but utterly alone. Is that not hell itself? Sartre thought so. But the monk and his cat are alone together, protecting and bordering and greeting one another. Perhaps that is heaven.
Foolish the man who does not raise his voice and praise with joyful words as he alone can. Heaven's high king. To the night birds with no soul but air. All day, everywhere, all day, everywhere.
Before me and you is a bowl and a towel. In the stories that were set down about the last days of Jesus, the one attributed to John is unique because he says almost nothing about the Last Supper, which is central to Christian worship, but he wrote at length about something no one else wrote about, foot washing. The text says that he rose from supper and laid aside his garments and girded himself with a towel. Well, I can't do that. Then he poured water into a basin, and there it is, and began to wash the disciples' feet and wipe them with a towel with which he was girded. He came to Simon Peter, and Peter said to him, Lord, do you wash my feet? You should know that washing someone's feet was very demeaning work. And Jesus answered him, saying, what I'm doing now you do not know, but afterward you will understand. In the last few years, this is how I have chosen to observe Good Friday here, something I have cherished as a gift to those I have served in this congregation, and a reminder that the essence of ministry, my life calling, is to serve other people. Of all the things this pandemic has cost me, this one probably pains me the most, for nothing gave me more spiritual solace than being able, literally, to wash the feet of those I serve. But I can wash my own feet. I can feel the soles that have touched the ground and notice the calluses and wrinkles, the evidence of thousands of miles walked over 5 continents over nearly 7 decades. These feet have read these steps hundreds of times, stood where the choir has sung, where couples of wed children have sat, where mourners have grieved. I see their age, remembering my young feet and wondering when they got old, remembering my wounds and how I endured them and how they recovered. They are next to my face, the oldest part of me. As I wash them, I remember your feet, those who allowed me the honor in years past and the profound trust it is to let someone touch your feet. Little could be more intimate and more precious than this. That's why it means so much to me. Communion usually means bread and wine. But for me, it is this, to be able to touch you at the most elementary level.